Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yeah.
And, diving into somebody's story like this is always more fun with a guide. So thankfully, we've got our amazing expert speaker here with us.
It's going to be fun.
Ready to uncover some interesting stuff.
Always excited to unpack a story like Tulsi Gabbard's.
Yeah.
You know, she's someone who definitely keeps you guessing, and her career has taken some pretty unexpected turns.
Absolutely. We've got a good mix of sources for you today, starting with her Wikipedia page, which is always a good place to get the basic facts.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some excerpts from what looks like someone's biography of her.
Oh, wow.
Could be some juicy details in there.
Yeah.
By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.
Yeah.
We love hearing what you guys think, and it really helps the show grow.
Definitely. We appreciate all the feedback.
So
Tulsi Gabbard, she's not exactly your average politician, right?
Right.
Let's start with her early life, because even there, things get interesting right away.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Born in American Samoa.
Okay.
Raised in Hawaii. Homeschooled.
Wow.
Practices Hinduism.
Interesting.
You start to see how these different pieces might have shaped her outlook on the world.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about it. American Samoa,
Right.
a U.S. territory with its own distinct culture.
Right.
Then Hawaii, a melting pot of influences.
Yeah.
All while being homeschooled and practicing Hinduism.
Yeah.
Talk about a diverse set of perspectives shaping her worldview.
It makes you wonder how those early experiences might have influenced her later decisions, both personally and professionally.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of her career, she got involved in politics pretty early on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She was elected to the Hawaii House of Representatives at the age of 21.
Wow.
The youngest ever at the time.
That's crazy.
Clearly a passion for public service runs in the family because her father was involved in politics as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in that position so young.
Yeah.
Talk about pressure.
I know.
Then, of course, 9/11 happens, and she makes another major life decision.
Right. She enlists in the Hawaii Army National Guard.
Wow.
And not only that, she gets deployed to Iraq in 2004.
Wow.
What I find really remarkable is that she actually chose not to run for re-election because of this deployment.
Oh.
That says a lot about her commitment to service.
Definitely. It's a powerful reminder that for some people, serving their country goes beyond just holding office.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting themselves on the line, literally.
Right.
You have to wonder how that experience in a war zone, seeing the realities of conflict firsthand, shaped her views on foreign policy and military intervention.
Absolutely. And that experience really comes through in her later career, especially her strong anti-interventionist stance.
Right.
After returning from Iraq, she continued to climb the political ladder in Hawaii.
Okay.
Honolulu City Council, then U.S. Representative for Hawaii.
And this is where it gets even more interesting for me.
Okay.
This isn't your typical politician's resume. We're talking about someone who served on some pretty heavy-hitting committees in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Armed Services, Homeland Security, Foreign Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't just local politics anymore. She was dealing with issues of national security and international relations on a global scale.
Exactly. It gives you a sense of the scope of her experience.
Right.
And then, of course, came the 2020 presidential run.
Yes.
A long shot for the Democratic nomination, for sure. But she really stood out with her anti-interventionist platform.
Right.
It really resonated with some voters who were tired of endless wars.
It's a complex issue, for sure.
Yes, it is.
And speaking of complex,
Okay.
this is where things get a little controversial.
All right.
Remember that meeting she had with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad during her time in Congress?
Oh, yeah. That definitely made headlines.
Right.
Some people saw it as brave, others as reckless.
Yeah.
It really sparked a debate about the role of diplomacy in dealing with controversial figures.
Yeah.
Don't forget to let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Right.
We'd love to hear your perspective on this meeting.
It's a good reminder that there are often multiple sides to every story.
Right.
And speaking of taking sides, her next big move was pretty dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Leaving the Democrats, becoming independent, and then joining the Republicans in 2024.
Wow, what a shift.
Talk about a shift. What do you make of that?
It's a move that makes you think about the state of political parties today, right?
Yeah.
Are those traditional labels becoming less relevant?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a growing space for people who don't fit neatly into either camp.
Yeah.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your take on this.
It's definitely something to ponder. And of course, we can't forget the bombshell.
Okay.
Trump selects Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence in 2024.
Wow.
That was a curveball, even for someone as unpredictable as her.
Right. Talk about unexpected.
Yeah.
It was a historic pick, too. The first Pacific Islander American and first Hindu American in that role.
Yeah.
It certainly sparked a lot of debate, especially considering her past statements on Syria and Russia, as well as her criticisms of U.S. foreign policy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people were very concerned about that pick.
Yeah.
And it raises some big questions about the direction of the intelligence community under her leadership.
It's easy to get caught up in the headlines and the controversies, but to really understand someone like Tulsi Gabbard, you have to look beyond the surface, don't you think?
You always say that, and it's so true.
Yeah.
So let's dig a little deeper into those controversies and critiques that have followed her throughout her career.
Okay.
What are some of the main criticisms being leveled at her? What are people saying?
Well, a lot of the criticism stems from her foreign policy views,
Okay.
particularly her stance on Syria and Russia.
Right.
Some critics accuse her of being an apologist for dictators,
Right.
pointing to her meeting with Assad and her questioning of U.S. intervention in those regions. Others are wary of what they see as shifting political allegiances.
Yeah.
Some view it as opportunism,
Right.
while others see it as a sign of evolving beliefs.
Yeah.
It's definitely sparked a lot of debate.
It's almost like people can't decide if she's incredibly principled or just playing the political game.
Right.
But like you said, it's important to remember that there are always multiple perspectives to consider.
Right.
What are some other ways people are interpreting her actions?
Some people argue that her willingness to engage with controversial figures like Assad is actually a sign of her commitment to diplomacy and dialogue.
Okay.
They believe she's genuinely trying to find peaceful solutions and advocate for a less interventionist foreign policy.
Okay.
And as for her shift from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party,
Right.
well, some see it as a rejection of what they perceive as the Democratic Party moving away from its core values.
Okay.
They argue that she's remained true to her own principles,
Yeah.
even if it means going against the grain.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the drama and the labels. But sometimes you have to step back and consider the motivations behind someone's actions.
Right.
So what does all of this tell us about Tulsi Gabbard as a person?
Okay.
What are some of her core beliefs and values?
From what we've gathered, it seems clear that she's someone who is deeply principled and driven by a strong sense of morality.
Right.
She's not afraid to speak her mind.
Right.
Even if it means facing backlash or controversy.
Yeah.
And you can't underestimate the impact of her military service.
Right.
It's clearly shaped her views on war and peace, and her commitment to serving her country is undeniable.
Right.
And it's worth noting her personal life as well.
Yeah.
Her practice of Hinduism, her marriages, her advocacy for veterans. These all contribute to a more complete picture of who she is as a public figure.
She's a fascinating mix of contradictions, for sure.
Right.
Strong military background, but advocates against intervention.
Yeah.
Deeply religious, but willing to challenge traditional political norms. It's no wonder she sparks so much debate.
Right.
But I think that's what makes her story so compelling. She makes you think, makes you question your assumptions.
Right.
And isn't that what we're all about here on the Deep Dive?
Absolutely. We're all about getting people to think critically,
Right.
to look beyond the surface and explore different perspectives.
Right.
And speaking of exploring different perspectives, we wanted to take a moment to talk about our own little venture here.
Okay.
Our podcast, Standing in the Gaps.
Yes. We're so passionate about bringing you these deep dives into interesting topics.
Right.
And we're always looking for ways to improve and reach a wider audience.
Right.
That's where you come in.
If you're enjoying this deep dive and want to help us bring these conversations to even more curious minds out there,
Right.
consider supporting our Standing in the Gaps podcast's GoFundMe campaign.
Yeah.
Your contributions will help us invest in better equipment, like webcams, studio microphones, and editing computers, to really level up the production quality.
Every little bit helps us expand our reach and keep these deep dives going strong.
Yes, it does.
You can find the link to our GoFundMe in the show notes.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate all the support. Now back to Tulsi.
Okay.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with a final thought about her journey.
Okay. Hit us with a thought-provoking question.
Well, her trajectory from Democrat to independent to Republican
Right.
really demonstrates how much the political landscape is changing.
Yeah.
It's evolving right in front of our eyes.
Yes, it is.
What do you think this means for the future of political parties?
That's a great question. Are those traditional labels of Democrat and Republican becoming less meaningful?
I think that's what we're seeing. Are we heading towards a more fragmented political landscape where individual issues and personalities matter more than party affiliations?
Right.
And if so, how do we even begin to make sense of it all?
These are complex questions, but they're worth wrestling with. What are your thoughts on all of this? Head over to the comments section and let us know what you think about Tulsi Gabbard's journey, the future of political parties, and anything else that stood out to you in this deep dive.
Right.
Your perspective is valuable to us, and we always learn from our listeners.
It's fascinating to consider how individual politicians can become symbols of larger trends.
Yeah.
Gabbard's story is almost a case study in the shifting sands of American politics.
It really is, and it makes you wonder what's next for her.
Right.
Director of National Intelligence is a huge role, especially in these times.
Right.
Do you think she'll be able to navigate the challenges and controversies that are sure to come her way?
Well, she's certainly shown a knack for weathering political storms throughout her career.
Yeah.
But this is a whole different level.
Yeah.
The DNI oversees the entire intelligence community, 18 agencies.
Wow.
From the CIA to the NSA.
Right.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is.
Can you imagine the daily briefings?
It's mind-boggling, the scope of information and responsibility.
I know.
And she's stepping into that role at a time when the U.S. is facing some serious global threats.
Right.
Rising tensions with China, the ongoing war in Ukraine, the ever-present threat of terrorism. It's a lot to handle for anyone, let alone someone new to the intelligence world.
And let's not forget the domestic challenges.
Right.
Cybersecurity, disinformation campaigns, political polarization. The DNI has to be able to juggle all of these competing priorities while also trying to reform and modernize the intelligence apparatus.
Right.
It's a tall order.
No doubt about it. And remember, Gabbard, despite her military background, doesn't have direct experience in intelligence gathering or analysis.
Right.
Do you think that lack of specific experience could be a major obstacle for her?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Some critics argue that she lacks the depth of knowledge and experience needed to effectively lead the intelligence community. Others point to her controversial foreign policy views and question whether she could be trusted to provide objective and unbiased assessments to the president.
Right.
What do you think? Is that a fair assessment?
It's tough to say.
Yeah.
Her supporters counter that her outsider status and willingness to challenge conventional thinking could actually be an asset in this role.
Okay.
They believe she'll bring a fresh perspective and a much-needed dose of skepticism to the intelligence community, which has been criticized in the past for failures in groupthink.
So it's a classic debate. Insider versus outsider.
Yeah.
Experience versus fresh thinking.
Right.
It's like we said before, there are always multiple perspectives.
Right.
It remains to be seen how Gabbard will navigate these complex issues and what impact she'll ultimately have on the intelligence community. I guess we'll all be watching closely.
Absolutely. One thing's for sure, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard is a force to be reckoned with, and she's not going away anytime soon.
Right.
Whether you love her or hate her, agree with her or disagree,
Right.
there's no denying that she's a fascinating figure who's making her mark on American politics.
Right.
And her story is far from over.
I completely agree. She's a reminder that the political landscape is constantly evolving, and we should always be prepared for the unexpected. Who knows what the next chapter of Tulsi Gabbard's story will hold.
Right.
One thing's for sure, we'll be here to deep dive into it when it happens.
You know we will. And speaking of deep dives, we want to thank everyone for joining us on this exploration of Tulsi Gabbard's life and career.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more insightful conversations just like this one.
And be sure to share your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah.
We always love hearing from you.
Right.
We appreciate all the feedback, and it really helps us grow.
And speaking of growing, we want to take a quick moment to mention our podcast, Standing in the Gaps.
Yes.
We're passionate about bringing you in-depth conversations like this.
Right.
And with your contributions, we can invest in better equipment, like webcams, studio microphones, and editing computers, to really level up the production quality.
Absolutely.
You can find the link to our GoFundMe in the show notes. Every little bit helps us reach a wider audience and keep these deep dives going strong.
Yes, it does.
Thanks for your support.
We appreciate it.
Until next time, keep diving deep.